ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਆਪਣੀ Sonia West. Welcome to Sanjha Galbaat. Today in the studio we have Councillor Linda Annis. She's going to be talking about a very important topic to the city of Surrey. We'll all want to watch this episode to learn what is happening with truck parking. So welcome to the studio. Linda Annis, how are you, Councillor?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, it's always a pleasure. We love to talk to you. You've always got really interesting topics to educate us on. And you do a lot for the community, you know, your involvement with Crime Stoppers and the things that are going on in the city. It's nice to know that someone's got our back. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you. That means a lot that you would say that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So recently, City Council, Surrey City Council, made a decision regarding truck parking. So let's talk about truck parking first, and then what decision did they make?
So truck parking in Surrey has been a huge problem for so long. We're short about 2,000 spaces just here in the city of Surrey.
We're talking semi-trucks.
That's correct.
Ones. Okay.
The big over-the-road trucks or the dump trucks, the large ones.
Right. So there is a shortage of parking, and then the city of Surrey made a decision on truck parking. Tell us a bit about that. What was the decision?
Well, there was a decision made at the last council meeting to have yet another temporary use permit issued for truck parking, which is, to me, is not solving the problem. It's just kicking the problem down the road for another council. We need to come up with a real solution that's something that addresses permanent parking for trucks.
Okay, so you opposed the approval of temporary truck parking at 20th Street and 194th Avenue. And you're saying that's because that's a temporary fix and you want something that's permanent.
Absolutely. It was a very hard decision for me to make because I know the truckers need more parking, but I had to finally raise a little bit more awareness about this issue because it is just not coming to fruition in terms of finding permanent solutions. With these temporary use permits, it only provides assurance to the truckers that they have a spot to park their trucks for the next 3 years.
Right.
And we know as Surrey grows, we're going to need even more trucks. So let's quit doing these 3-year temporary use permits and let's get to a real solution.
Okay, so that makes sense. On the face of it, someone might say, oh, she opposed it, but you opposed it because you're looking at the future and not just a quick fix.
Absolutely. You know, trucks, when they park in these temporary use spots, they can't wash their vehicles, they can't do minor oil changes, they can't do any fixes. So this is problematic to the truckers because they need to do that somewhere. And if they do it on those lands, and particularly the lands we're talking about on the temporary use permit that was approved on Monday night's council meeting, if there's leakage, it can have huge impact on the environment as well. So we need to find the right spots where they can do these minor changes as well.
Right, and the temporary permits, is this something that can be extended?
It can be extended only one time.
Okay.
So maximum, you could have it for 6 years, but there's no guarantees that council is going to do that. You're into a new council now and they may have quite a different opinion. So I really, again, coming back to it, we need to have permanent solutions.
Okay, and according to you, how many spots is Surrey short at the moment? I know you referenced it just a little bit ago, but how many spots do we need in Surrey still?
Right now, we're short, and it's only an estimated number, but around 2,000, and the number is going to continue to grow as our business base grows here, and we know we've got lots of expansion into industrial areas, which will mean more trucks, which means we need a solution, and we need it now.
Are people parking in like Walmart or Costco parking lots? Like, where are they going if there's that much of a shortage?
They're parking on residential streets, they're parking on farmland.
That could be dangerous. Residential streets would be a problem, I would think.
Residential streets are a problem. You know, these are big trucks, and depending on where they are, there could be little kids in the neighborhood.
That's what I thought.
You know, it's not good on farmland as well. On much of the farmland, because you know that's where our food comes from, and if they have some sort of a problem, leaky oil or whatever it might be, it can be problematic.
Yes, again, environment, keeping that in mind. So the impact of continually approving temporary solutions, you said a new council could come in and then they might not honor it. What other things would be impacted for continually approving temporary solutions?
There's no assurances for the truck drivers that they will have space.
Right.
You know, that's a huge issue.
Yeah.
And what we should be doing is looking at permanent, and we need to be looking now so that we can be sure that we've got adequate space in the future.
Right. Why do you think that City Council wanted to do the temporary and not do the permanent? What do you think the reason was behind the permits for just temporary?
Well, there's a huge amount of pressure on council to get more trucking spots.
Okay.
And it's a temporary Band-Aid solution to fix the problem. But really, rather than keeping improving this, and it's not just been a problem with this council, it was the same thing last council under Doug McCallum as well.
Okay.
So it's been an ongoing issue. And we've done study after study, but we're not coming up with a real solution.
Okay.
The province, a few months ago, I guess probably about 6 months ago, approved a spot under the Port Mann Bridge. But that's just one spot. We need many, many more. Right. We need to be looking at, you know, good examples in Delta around the Nordell interchange. There's a great spot there.
Okay. So you're saying that in previous council as well, this was temporary at that time, it's temporary again now, and you're saying you don't want to keep repeating the cycle?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What risks do you associate with the approved temporary site? Well, we talked a bit about environmental sensitivity. Did you want to add more to that? But I think we've kind of covered what environmentally the risks would be.
It is, and sometimes these truck parking spots end up in sort of residential areas, the areas that are in transition. I think about Port Kells as an example.
Okay.
You know, it's well and fine to put it there while we're building whatever we will build there in the future, but it has a real negative impact on the residents that are living there.
Yeah. How would you describe the role of Surrey's truckers in our transportation network? What is their role?
Well, they're huge. You know, so many of the truckers live right here in Surrey, and they're driving, some of them are driving daily routes throughout Surrey and throughout the metro region. Yeah. Others are long haulers too. And it's not just the trucks that the Surrey residents are driving, but we have trucks that are coming in from the US, from across Western Canada, that are bringing deliveries to, you know, our distribution facilities here, to our port. So those trucks also need a place to be able to park, and sometimes park overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about the truckers and how they just want to do their job. And if they're equipped with everything they need, then they can do their job properly. And then there's no, you know, no discourse between communities saying, you know, this person is parked here or they're parked here. They park in their spot that's designated for them. So I think that that's a good thing.
Yeah, and if I might just add too, thinking of the long haulers are ones that have to park because they've, you know, driven for as long as they can. You know, they have to take a break after a certain number of hours. We should have a spot where they have rest facilities so that, you know, showers, washrooms, perhaps a little restaurant where you can get a coffee and things like that.
Yeah, there's there's a truck stop on the way when I drive out to Kamloops. There's one at, I believe it's Hope, and it is phenomenal. They have showers, they have everything. It's a proper truck stop. They have a restaurant and coffee. It's like, we need more of that.
We absolutely do.
Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I absolutely do,
It's beautiful, actually.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
charge my car there and I see all the truckers, and it's just such a nice thing because there has to be a quality of life for these truckers as well. They're doing all of this, you know, bringing us everything that we need, working hard. They don't get the respect or the facilities that they need. So I think that you're saying the permanent spots would allow them to do their job a lot easier than having to worry about that temporary.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're doing a daily route and you don't have a place to park your truck, and all you're thinking during the day is, well, where am I going to put it at night? And you end up in a residential area or in a farmland or wherever you can put it.
Yeah.
So we do need to have a longer vision.
Right. So help me understand. If council is able to say, okay, we're going to do these temporary spots, why can't they just say, okay, we're going to do these permanent spots? Are there a lot of hurdles to jump through? Why aren't they just going with permanent right off the bat?
Well, it's about taking the time to find the space. And if you're doing a permanent spot, you want to make sure that you put certain things in place for longer term, right? Okay. So, you know, it's about finding the location and finding a good, large, you know, piece of land to do it, and then actually building in and finding an operator to run it.
So then why wouldn't they do that now? Is it because that council will be changing soon and they wanted to get it done before that?
It's been an ongoing issue, and I think it's just we need to get focused on it, and we need to make that a high priority.
Okay, well, that's good that you're at least taking the initiative to say, I want more, you know, effort on this front. I think that's a good thing.
We need to be doing it.
Yeah.
You know, these are residents of Surrey, and, you know, the people that move all of our goods, and we all are so dependent on, you know, all of our goods and food, and much of it doesn't come from here, and it's got to get from wherever it's coming to us.
Absolutely, yeah, we do definitely rely on truckers, on the transportation industry. So past mayors Doug McCallum and current Mayor Brenda Locke, what does the statement reveal about their leadership? Talk about their leadership a bit, if you would.
Well, I think around the truck parking, it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
We've had lots of talks, we've done task force, but there's been no results other than more temporary use permits being issued. And that's not good enough. That's not good enough for the residents of Surrey.
Right. Have you had conversations yourself, being a city councillor? Have you gone and, right, boots on the ground, talking to truckers face to face?
I absolutely have. And
Tell us about that.
They're frustrated. They're very frustrated. Particularly the independent truckers, because if you work for a large fleet, you may not have this problem. But if you're an independent trucker having 1 or 2 or 3 trucks, it's extremely difficult. And I want to continue my work in terms of working with them and collaborating to find out exactly where the best spot is for them. Right. Or spots, I should say, because one isn't going to do it for sure.
Yeah, because the rest of us, we drive, we don't see what they see. They're looking at things through trucker eyes and know which areas are probably the best for them to be able to stop, because they know their routes. They know, more about where to go than we would. So it's good that you're talking to them face to face. So when you bring these ideas forward, is there not a cohesive manner in which everybody can agree to do this? Because if the previous council and the current council is saying, no, we just want temporary, where is the mismatch? Why is this so difficult? It's for the betterment of everyone.
It needs to be a priority for the mayor. The mayor, of course, leads the city, and she has majority on council, as did Doug McCallum last time.
Okay.
And we need to get focused on this, and we need to have a shift and find the places. As I drive down Highway 91, there's a rest spot there for truckers, yeah. But it's used for more than just a rest spot, and it's not adequate. So we need to get on this very quickly.
When you say used for more than just a rest stop, are you alluding to something?
Yeah, so there's truckers that are sometimes leaving their trucks there overnight because they have no place to put it. I see a lot of empty trucks there.
Yeah.
I think about some of them probably sleeping there overnight because there's no other place for them to go.
Right. Okay, and we don't want that. Again, quality of life in work.
Absolutely. There's not the facilities that are required for them there. And if they do need to do minor repairs, it's not appropriate spot either. So where do they go?
Yeah. So when I think about, previous Mayor Doug McCallum or current Mayor Brenda Locke, lovely people, and you're lovely, and I mean all of council is. Why is it such a difficult thing? I know I kind of already asked you this, but I really want to understand, because why is it difficult to get collaboration to get a permanent, why is there no collaboration?
I think the issue is it's easy to do a TUP or a temporary use permit.
Okay.
It's a quick fix.
Yeah.
And you can push it down the road a little farther. And it's one of those things, sometimes if you have a quick fix for something, you never to get to the real issue.
Yeah, it's easier to give the oil to the squeaky wheel rather than replace the wheel, I guess.
That's 100% well put.
Thank you. But I can imagine conversations, and what I'm trying to understand is when you say something and you bring this up, what are you met with? Are you where is the problem? You're very, when you speak very kindly and you professionally, and I can't imagine it being ill received. So where is the hiccup?
I think it just comes for priorities, right?
Okay.
And I think it needs to be elevated as a key priority for the city. And if you can do a quick fix, you can get on to something else, but this needs to be a higher priority than what it is for the city right now.
So you're saying it was important to Doug McCallum, it was important to Brenda Locke, it's important to you, but it needs to be more important than what it has been in the past, and you want it to be permanent so that it deserves recognition, and you want it to get that standard.
That's well put, absolutely. We do keep coming up with TUPs, but there's no certainty for the truckers.
Right.
And there's a lot of uncertainty for the neighborhood too.
Yep.
So let's do it right, and let's do it the right way, and let's do it now.
Okay. I do apologize for all my questions, because I really wanted to understand what we're talking about and why it's not happening, and our viewers also would like to know, because we don't know as much about politics as of course you would, and you also met the truckers, so you'd know more about their plight. So political implications of voting against temporary truck parking solutions. So what are the political implications for voting against temporary?
I wanted to raise awareness with it, and I thought just by us having this conversation today is a great start, because people don't necessarily understand, the magnitude of the issue and what the solution might be. And I wanted to make a statement. It's not certainly that I'm against truck parking, because, as I said several times today, we need more and more and more, but not temporary use.
Right. You absolutely 100% support trucking industry. You want them to get their space. You just don't want it to be a rental. You want them to have that space.
I absolutely do. I want them to have a permanent home, because there's nothing, it's, if you're a renter of a house, by way of example, and you're always afraid that your landlord is going to pull the rug out from underneath of you, there's not that level of comfort. But if you know you've got a permanent spot to go to.
Right. So if there was a permanent spot and a trucker could park their truck, then they jump in their own car and then go home? Is that how it would work?
It could. So there's multiple ways, because if there's a permanent truck parked, some of the long haulers could come there, and if they needed to do their rest or whatever, they wouldn't be staying there permanently.
Right.
That would be a stop while they went to the port, or they went and delivered their load, right? And for others, it could be that's where you bring your truck each night if you don't have a location. Absolutely. And particularly for the independent ones.
Yes, absolutely. What are, let's see, the issue that reflects broader challenges in urban planning in growing cities like Surrey? So let's talk about the issue about the growing challenges that we have. Yeah,
so there is always, particularly in the city like Surrey, because we're developing areas and putting in TUPs, which does create havoc, particularly for residents if it happens to be in a residential neighborhood. And I think of places like Port Kells as a perfect example. We need to, that's why I think we need to be looking longer term and identifying areas, perhaps in Bridgeview, perhaps areas closer to the port, so that truckers can go there. But we can't just do it on, we do need to have other spots too, somewhere close to the border. So we just need to be
planning. Some serious planning, because Bridgeview, I'm thinking about that area, and that's a great area for what you're suggesting as well. But there might be something that I don't see, because on the face of it, it looks like a great area, but maybe there's something, I don't know, maybe there's a children's like preschool or something around the corner, and they have to do their due diligence, I guess.
Well, and you would put something like this in, certainly not in a residential area or an area where, there was a lot of vehicle traffic. You'd find an area that was, more industrial-like.
Yeah. Well, I know in our community, we have a lot of South Asian truckers, so I know that you fighting for them to get that permanent spot is appreciated, and hopefully council can, see what you're saying and make some changes. Even though council is going to be changing, let's try to see if we can get that permanent solution in before we change.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I do want to talk, I thank you for this. Is there anything more you want to say about this? Because we're going to continue talking about Crime Stoppers otherwise, and we'll close in a bit, but I do want to know if there's anything more we need to touch on this, or do we already touch on this enough, do you think?
Well, I just would like to add that I think, it's very, very important that we address this issue. It's been an issue far, far, far too long, and it keeps growing and growing as the city grows. Right now we have 2,000 spots, or roughly, but it's only going to get bigger as the city grows. So let's get on it, and let's get it fixed right away.
Okay, perfect. So now I want to talk a bit about, this is good. Thank you for bringing this issue to us. Now I want to talk about Crime Stoppers, because as I said at the top of the show, you do a lot in our community to make sure that we're safe. So again, thank you for that. And tell me, how has it been, especially since we've had some highlighted issues in the community around extortion? I mean, we were just going to talk about trucking, but now that you're here and we have a little bit of time, this extortion business, it's got everybody very nervous, and we're trying to figure out what's legal, what's illegal, how do we stop this, how are we safe? We got so many questions, and I think you're the right person to give us some answers because you're a Crime Stopper. What's your role with Crime Stoppers first?
So I'm actually the executive director with Metro Vancouver Crime Stoppers, which covers from Boston Bar through to Powell River. And it's a huge problem, unfortunately, and very tragically, particularly here in Surrey too. And I'm deeply concerned about it as the executive director, but also in my role as a city councillor too. And maybe I can just explain a little bit about the Crime Stoppers program, because I think it can be hugely beneficial to people that are concerned about extortion attempts. So Crime Stoppers allows people to call us anonymously.
Okay.
We won't take your name, we won't take any personal information, we don't trap your IP address, we don't take your phone number. We just want your information.
Completely anonymous.
Completely anonymous.
Okay.
Guaranteed by the Supreme Court of Canada.
Okay.
And we're not the police, too.
Right.
So the reason why I bring this all up, because people are afraid.
Yeah.
And they're afraid if somebody finds out they left the information with the police
Yeah.
or with someone, that there may be retribution.
Right.
Well, with Crime Stoppers, there is not, because we don't know who you are. So we take your information, we make sure when you give it to us that there's nothing that would reveal your identity,
Yes.
and then we send it off to the police.
Okay.
Great program,
Yeah.
and oftentimes people are mistaken thinking Crime Stoppers is part of the police. We're not.
Okay.
We're not for profit.
Right.
And so, for some people that maybe have come, they're from their home country, they're fearful of the police, and rightfully so. You don't have to be, because we're not them.
We're not the police.
Yes.
Okay.
So I really hope that people will call us.
Yeah.
And we also, if people speak Hindi or Punjabi,
Yeah.
we have translators right there, and then you don't have to wait.
Perfect.
And we'll get your information and hopefully get this dealt with quickly.
Okay, well, thank you for your hard work with the city and with Crime Stoppers. You're doing so much in such, everybody has 24 hours. I don't know how you're doing all of this, but thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and especially bringing forward, this issue of the permanent parking is what is needed for truckers. So I really appreciate that. And if you want to say one thing before we let you go, you can say one thing to our audience watching right now.
I absolutely would love to, and I'd like to talk just briefly about Crime Stoppers. We're open 24/7. To reach us, just dial 1-800-222-TIPS or visit our website, www.solvecrime.ca. Please leave us information if you know anything about any extortion attempts, and don't pay if you're targeted. That's absolutely the worst thing that you can do. If they know you've got money and you pay, they'll just be after you again and again. So do the right thing, call Crime Stoppers or call the police, and let us deal with the information.
Very good. Thank you so much, Councillor Lindanis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was our program for Sanjha today. I hope you enjoyed the program. Keep watching SanjhaTV. Thank you for watching. Sat Shri Akal.